How would you like a way to feel good about setting boundaries so that you can focus on the right things and get them done? Stay tuned because today we are talking all about setting boundaries with time. Hey, my friend, welcome back. My name is Danie. I am the Peace Teacher, a hypnotherapist that helps you honor your best self by helping you discover, know, and master who you really are. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 tips for setting boundaries with time. Last week, we talked about setting boundaries with our video on how to set personal boundaries for a fulfilled life and our hypnosis for setting boundaries. I want to continue this conversation and talk about the thing that I see many people struggle with. Oftentimes, my clients come to me because they want to have more motivation. They want to get rid of procrastination. They want to be more organized and become a master at getting things done. What I often find, though, is that it's not that they need the motivation or they're a procrastinator or they're not that organized. What I find is really the problem is that they have wishy-washy boundaries or they have none at all, especially around their time. They are often allowing other people to rule their time and they don't even know it. So let's get started with 3 tips that I'm sure you heard before, but maybe you haven't heard them in this way. And you might even be surprised by number 1 and 2. Number 1, start with your goals. Yes, I know this sounds a little bit weird. We don't think about goals when we're thinking about setting boundaries. But as I mentioned in our last video, the goal, the area, the thing that you're in right now, where you're focusing and why you want to set the boundary is probably one of the most important things. But here, when we're talking about time, we need to look at, well, what is our current priority? What is our current goal? What is our current season? A few weeks ago, we did a video called Work-Life Balance and how it's not a 50-50 thing. And in that video, we talk about the season that you are in currently. And when we look at it from that perspective, it's the same thing here. Is when we need to set boundaries around time, we need to know what season we're in and what our priorities are. So some things I want you to think about with this first tip is, what is my current priority? What is my current goal? What is my current focus? And the second thing is, what do you want your day to look like? Do you want your day to be jam-packed where you're running around from place to place? Or do you want it to be filled with moments where you can stop and breathe and vision? Or do you want a combination of these things? I remember when I was in the corporate world still, and I was also, getting my business up and running, is I would have days where I would be at work from 8 to 5 and then drive home in traffic, come home, have a little bit of family time, and then I'd get to work, whether it was admin work or client calls, coaching sessions, and it was really draining for me to go through a day of all of that. And so I kind of had to look at, certain time I needed to set for family, and certain times I needed to do admin work, and other times I needed to do client calls or coaching sessions. And so I had to really look at, what is my priority and where is my focus at? My corporate job took a lot of my time. It was where most of my day was spent, and then especially the drive back and too. So I needed to make sure that I was balancing that out by having only certain things on the evening. For example, I wouldn't do coaching calls and admin work on the same days that maybe I had a training earlier in the day. There were weeks where I would have all, days of training. All week long, I'd be in training in my corporate job where I was training courses, all day long. And then I'd come home and be coaching, and that was just too much for me. So I realized that when I was doing those types of things, I needed to do more easier stuff like vision stuff or admin stuff that was really a no-brainer. So look at what season you're in, what your priorities are, and then look at where those things that you need to do and maybe what time you can do them. Which leads me to number 2. Tip number 2 is to learn who you are. Now you might be thinking, Danie, how does that fit into setting boundaries? Oh, it's like one of the main things to look at. Oftentimes we forget to look at what we want and what works best for us. One of the things I look at when I'm working with a client is to ask them, what are the things that energizes them? What are the things that drain them? What are the things that, in a certain environment they can do better? I was working with a client this week and he was telling me that at home, he cannot do certain work. Just the energy there was just too much for him and it's draining. And so he needs to go to another environment to work. The same with me. There's certain tasks that I like to do, but I don't do them at home because I'm so distracted by everything here at home. I have to go to a coffee shop so I can focus my attention in and just work on the one thing, the task at hand. Writing blog posts and email content is not my favorite thing to do. I'd much rather be talking to you here on video. But those are things that I need to do in my business. And so I have to make sure that I put myself in the right environment to do so. The other thing that I've learned recently is that most of my brilliance comes in the beginning of the day. So I make sure that the tasks that I'm doing are making the most out of my brain in the morning. The things that I don't really like to do, I actually find I need to do them in the morning. I need to get them done because in the afternoon, I don't want to do them. My brain shuts off. It wants to relax. And so I've moved the tasks that I used to do in the morning that were fun and I love to do, I moved them to the afternoon. Because I love to do them so much and they energize me, they actually help me when I hit that 3 p.m. slump and all I want to do is go sit on the couch and watch movies. I actually get up and I'm like, okay, here we go. What are we doing now? Because I'm energized by the work that I'm doing. Also, I don't have clients every single day, and that's on purpose. I make sure that I schedule them throughout the week and that I have days where, or pockets of days, I should say, where I have one day that is completely dedicated to admin work. And then I have other days where I have either the morning or I have the evening to do admin work. I do sessions over the weekend as well. So oftentimes I'm on calls during the weekend. And so I don't always have a lot of time to work on the weekends for admin stuff. So I make sure that during my week, I put those blocks of times in so that I can get all the things that I need to get done. It's a one-woman show right now for me. So managing my time and really being clear about what it is I'm working on and when I'm working on it is so important to make sure that I'm taking the steps that I need to take to grow my business and to be able to be there for my client. This is why I made sure that we started with tip 1 and making sure we knew what our goals were. Right? When we know what our focus is, it's easier for us to move into our last step, which is it's time to say no. Now that we know what our goals are, we know what energizes us, what drains us, what activities we want to include in our day, what things we need to include in our day, we now learn to say no. And the first thing I want to say about this is, friend, no is a complete sentence. I know that might be hard for you because I too struggled with that. For a long time, I would say no, I would make excuses, I would say all these things of why I couldn't do something to justify, and I'd really wanted to do it, but, and all of these things would kind of come out of my mouth explaining why I didn't do something or why I can't do something or whatever. Nowadays, I simply say no. And that's it. And it's a complete sentence. No is it. That is exactly what I need to tell them. I don't need to explain all the details. I don't need to make any excuses. I don't need to do any of that. And you know what? It feels so much better than me having to explain everything. Simply by saying no, it's clear, it's a no. And I can easily say that because I know what my goals are. I know what my priorities are. I know what time of day I'm going to take calls and what days I'm going to take calls and what days I'm going to do, meetings with people and what days I'm going to do networking and what days I'm going to do admin work and what days are going to be mainly focused on my family. All of this gets managed and organized because I know what I'm going to do and what my focus is. So I can easily say no to the things that are going to not serve what that goal is. This was one of the hardest things for me to learn, was to stay focused on where it is that I'm going and what I'm doing. And then to say no to the things that do not serve that vision. You see, everything starts in our mind. Our realities are created from our mind. And when we have that vision and we stay focused on that vision, you'll start to see that our reality changes, our life changes, our environments change, because we're so focused on where we're going and what we're doing that you seem to find that these other things just seem to fade away in the back, and you start saying no easily. You start accepting yourself first. Let's recap our 3 tips. Number 1, start with your goals. Number 2, learn who you are. And number 3, it's time to say no. If you are ready to become a master at getting things done and saying no and putting up those boundaries that support your vision, I invite you to check out our hypnosis that we did last week, Hypnosis for Setting Boundaries, and our hypnosis that was released this week, Hypnosis for Self-Criticism. Those 2 together are such a powerful combo to help you get rid of that inner voice that is driving you down and to really learn how to set the boundaries that you need. These 2 sessions will help you rewrite those stories and help you step in to your best self. Be sure and like this video if you have been reminded by something or if you have learned something new. And make sure that you have subscribed, as we have new videos that are released every single week. And lastly, I'd love to know what your takeaway is from this video. You see, I am all about learning and then applying. So what is it? Take a second to just think back on this video and what did you learn? What is your takeaway? What are you going to implement over the next few days? As always, my friend, remember, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and find